It's one of the biggest games of the year, Kentucky versus Louisville, and I'm going to tell you how the Cats are going to stop the Cards on today's episode of Locked On Kentucky.
You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It's for games like this. This is why we do the show. What's going on, Big Blue Nation? Welcome on into Locked On Kentucky, your daily Kentucky Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Lance Dawe, and on today's episode of Locked On Kentucky, we are going to be previewing Kentucky basketball's matchup with the Louisville Cardinals. Big-time matchup in the KFC Yum Center between two of the nation's best offenses. How's this one going to shake out? We're going to give you thoughts on the game, as well as Christian Collins apparently coming to Kentucky. Is Tyran Stokes still in the mix? Going to give my thoughts on that. And then to wrap up the show, with the win over Florida and the way that game happened, can Kentucky really fire Mark Stoops at this point? I'll give my thoughts on that as well. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. You can download the app today. Thank you guys so much for making Locked On Kentucky your first listen every single day. Want to remind you that we are free and available on all platforms. If you're watching on YouTube, would love it if you subscribe to the show. Going to be having a postcast actually after the Louisville game live here on the YouTube channel, so make sure you subscribe to see that. And if you're listening on podcast, I would love it if you subscribe there as well. Go ahead right now, before we even get into it, comment your score predictions in the comments below. Let me know what you want to think about, what you think, I should say, about this Kentucky-Louisville game. The computer models, as much as I love them, I'm going to disagree with them a little bit here today, because basically every single major computer model out there, Hasla, Torvik, KenPom, Evan Mia, they're all saying, hey, the Cats are probably going to take an L in this one on the road. So we'll do this preview like we normally do. We'll start with the coach. We'll break down the offense, kind of some players to watch, how I think this game's going to shake out. Pat Kelsey, you already know who he is if you're a Kentucky fan. 29-8, 18-2 in his year and change here with the Cards. Previously at Winthrop in Charleston, really good offenses there. And the refrain that I've continued to kind of hit on the show as far as what Louisville likes to do offensively is that a season ago, when they went 18-2 in the ACC, the offense that they had was really, really good, but they didn't necessarily have the personnel to take it to the heights that I think Pat Kelsey is currently envisioning in terms of how they want to play in transition, how aggressive they can be from three, how efficient they can be in that style of offenses. In this year, you kind of see the personnel strengths kind of play into the three-point shooting, play into the transition. It starts with one of the best guards in the country, and Mikel Brown Jr., the five-star freshman, somebody that I really wanted to see at UK. He is one of the best passers in the nation. He has played efficiently. He's played incredibly so far for Louisville through two games, albeit against really bad competition. But Brown pushes, again, one of the quickest offenses in the country. The average possession length is under 13 seconds. That's third in the nation, and they will push it up and down the floor every single chance they get. Off of a miss, off of a score, off of a turnover, out of bounds, it doesn't matter. They will try and push, most notably to the corners, to try and get as efficient of a look from three as possible. If they can't get that, they will drive to the rim. So far this season, shooting almost 72% inside the arc. That's really, really good, again, albeit against South Carolina State and Jackson State. So they have speed. They have the ability to finish well at the rim. It's one of the most dangerous shooting teams in the country. Again, not the most efficient right now, but the personnel clearly indicates that they will be a really hot shooting team. You look at guys like Ryan Conwell, Isaac McNeely, two really solid guys on the wing that will push in transition and, again, knock down the three. That's what this team is all about. This game is going to probably be decided by three things: how Kentucky plays at the rim, whether or not Jaland Lowe and Mikel Brown Jr. can become efficient scoring options, and the free throw line. We'll start here at the top. How Kentucky plays at the rim. Why does the rim matter so much here in this game between two teams that are kind of known for having a high-octane, aggressive, outside shooting type offenses? Well, I think that the way that Kentucky wants to approach this in terms of X's and O's and stylistically, I think they do want to try and take advantage of where they have matchups, or advantage matchup-wise, inside the arc. I think Kentucky's guards might be a little bit more physical, and it's less about the physicality and the weight and the muscle of these guys, but more about the way that they are utilized. I think that Kentucky's probably got some better ball handlers on the wing as opposed to Conwell and McNeely, and it's no disrespect to Conwell. I just think that top to bottom, Kentucky's guard rotation is probably a little bit better at driving and scoring at the rim. without being assisted, I should say, from somebody like Brown or maybe somebody else in the offense. So I think how Kentucky plays at the rim is going to be big because I think they can find an advantage there. Driving downhill, scoring at the rim. They're going to have to be efficient doing so, though, against one of the nation's best 2-point defenses. I'll get to why that might be a little bit fluky in a second. But they have to play well on offense, obviously, but then defensively as well. If you can take away some of the straight line drives that players like Brown are having to the basket, then I think you completely change what Louisville wants to do offensively because you are going to already kind of be focusing on the perimeter in terms of at least what Conwell and McNeely are doing. If you can force half of their offense to basically disappear, right? Or the most efficient aspect of their offense to disappear, I should say, and kind of say, okay, dare you to beat us from three on efficiency, dare you to beat us from beyond the arc, and you be an efficient shooting team. I think that's probably the best case scenario for Kentucky defensively. It's kind of pick your poison here. It's either die via a bunch of really annoying 2-point baskets over and over and over and over, or take your chances with the outside shooting of these guys. Again, really, really talented shooters. I want to try and force them in a game of this magnitude to put it together against what I think is one of the better defenses in the nation with Kentucky. They also, again, they have to play well at the rim. But this game is also going to come down to whether or not the two lead point guards in this game can actually become efficient scoring options. Not just scoring options, but efficient scoring options. So Mikel Brown Jr., currently 8th in the nation in assist rate, almost 53%, which was just bananas. Again, very, very small sample size, but he's still playing really, really well. He has gotten to the free throw line. He has shot well inside the arc. He's 3 of 9 outside the arc. 33% is not bad, but it's not anything to write home about. And then Jaland Lowe so far, shooting less than 30% from the floor. Again, just one game so far, but after last year's struggles, I think you try and bring efficiency into question here again. Obviously, these guys are really good distributors, but I think that with the attention that some of the guys have off ball for both of these squads, I think there's going to be a lot of attention dealt to those players. I think you're going to have to ask guys like Lowe and Brown to go out and put the ball in the hole themselves. Brown averaging a little over 14 a game. Lowe only averaging 6. Again, came off the bench, didn't play a ton, trying to work back in after that shoulder injury. I think it's more so about Mikel Brown Jr. than Jaland because Kentucky really works their backcourt by committee in terms of scoring and balance and distributing. They've kind of got jack of all trades, master of none at virtually every single spot in their backcourt on the 2-deep, minus Lowe. Louisville, I would argue, also has a pretty strong backcourt, but isn't as diverse as UK. Again, like I mentioned, I think Kentucky's got players that can drive better. I think they've got players that are just more diverse with the ball in their hands. So I think this is going to come down to how Kentucky plays at the rim, whether or not Lowe and Brown can go out and get clutch buckets whenever their teams ask them to, and then the free throw line. So far, Louisville has been drawing free throws at a pretty high rate. Again, playing two really bad opponents, but still, they're getting to the line quite a bit. Last year, Louisville only took 14 free throws in Lexington as opposed to Kentucky's 28. Kentucky, again, definitely more of a driving team. So I think that you are going to see the rim play go hand in hand with whether or not you can draw fouls and score at the free throw line. That's been a little bit of a concern in the preseason about whether or not Kentucky can knock down stuff at the charity stripe as at high of a rate as they need to. I'd like to see that in this game. So free throws, how you play at the rim, the two lead guards, and then the final note here. Louisville's 2-point defense is not as impressive as it seems on paper. They are currently 6th in the nation, allowing their two opponents so far to shoot just 33.8% inside the arc. That is incredible, but it's not as impressive as it seems on paper. I actually took the time to go look at some of the Torvik stats because they do chart whether or not twos are directly at the rim, a little bit outside, or in the mid-range. South Carolina State, get this, was 4 of 24 on mid-range shots. They shot 7 of 14 at the rim. So shooting 50% at the rim as opposed to 4 of 24 on mid-range. That's what's killing the percentage. That's what's driving it down here. So again, very small sample size, a little bit of a false 2-point defense here so far from Louisville. Jackson State, 5 of 16 on mid-range shots, sub 33%. They shot 9 of 20 at the rim, which isn't good, but still it's almost 50% as opposed to the less than 34% that's been charted so far. For context, by the way, Louisville, only 6 mid-range shots combined through these two games. Kentucky is 4 of 14 on mid-range shots, but partially due to the fact that Yelovich has been taking some of those bad shots. Owe is 0 of 2 so far, but the only guy I think that I would envision taking mid-range shots for Kentucky in this game, at least to a volume that would affect the outcome, I think is Dawe, and I trust him in that spot. I don't necessarily know if I trust anybody else. So my prediction for this game, I think Kentucky's got to be really sound with how they want to operate on offense. Shot selection is going to be really key here. I think Kentucky can get out and run with these guys, but again, it's about discipline and transition. You have to be able to get to the corners as quick as Louisville does. You have to be able to make sure that you stop drives to the basket, kind of shut them down, force them to play from the perimeter in the half court at various points. It's kind of weird knowing what Mark Pope is stylistically, but I think that, yes, these two teams can run, but I think if the pace is a little bit slower, it does favor Kentucky because of what they are able to do physically in this game. I think that's basically what it might come down to. I really hate that we don't have Jaden Quaintance for this one because that completely changes what this matchup might look like, again, on the interior. Louisville, I don't think, would be able to get virtually anything just because I don't trust other front court players. All due respect to Kayshawn Pryor and Sananda Frew, two guys that I just haven't really seen a ton from. So my thought on this game is Kentucky's going to be able to do enough. Louisville might get volume from three, but I don't think that they will get super high efficiency just because of how good Kentucky is defensively. And the Wildcats are going to find a way to pull one out in a game that might go to overtime. This is going to be one of the most difficult games on Kentucky's schedule. It might be the toughest. It might be the most difficult environment. Cats are going to have to go in there and make a statement. Are you as poised? Can you prove yourself to be as poised as you have talked over the last 48 hours? The way that you've spoken, the way you've kind of played down what Louisville has said about you and your team and how eager they are to try and spring the upset. Louisville's favor in this game, by the way, but that's not how they view it. Can you kind of present yourself and play with the calm demeanor that you've been presenting over the last 2 days? Can Mark Pope get it done? I'm going to say yes. This is going to be a very difficult contest, though. Let me know what you think in the comments below again. So Christian Collins has received a crystal ball prediction to come to Kentucky. Do we get a commitment by the end of the week? I'm not sure. And what's up with Tyran Stokes? Going to be breaking all of that down here for you in just a little bit. Before we do that, though, tell you guys about our friends over at Wayfair. The holiday season is right around the corner, and that means it's time to get your home ready. Whether you need seating for guests, cozy new linens, or fun serveware for holiday hosting, Wayfair's Black Friday sale is here to help you make your space shine. And the best part, you don't really have to wait. Wayfair's Black Friday deals are happening all month long, up to 70% off everything from sofas to spatulas. Have you upgraded here in your kitchen recently? And, well, let's just say you haven't. Again, you want to be getting ready for Thanksgiving. You want to be getting ready for Christmas. I have actually gotten a couple of different things that I'm going to bust out for the holidays. Super excited about that as far as kitchenware goes. You guys need to head over to Wayfair. You need to get on the Black Friday deals. Don't miss out on, again, really early deals that are going on right now. Head to wayfair.com. Shop Wayfair's Black Friday sale for up to 70% off. That's WAYFAIR.com. Sale ends December 7th. All right, continuing along here on today's episode of Locked On Kentucky, Lance Dawe hanging out here with you. Really appreciate you guys checking out the show today. Again, if you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel or the podcast feed, would love it if you did so. Those are my thoughts on Kentucky versus Louisville. I'll take Kentucky to win in a tight one. Don't really feel comfortable giving a score in this one because I'm not quite sure if it will reach the heights that we saw last year. 93-85, I believe, was the final score. I don't know if we're going to see that in this game, but I'm not confident enough to place a specific score on this one yet. If you would like to know, the best website on planet Earth, KenPom, has Louisville projected to win this one 84-83. I believe the Vegas line basically comes out to 86-83 Louisville right now. It was floating around 2.5. It's up to 3.5 right now over on FanDuel if you want to go lay something down on that. But that's enough about the cards for now. Let's talk a little bit about something that, honestly, we have to get to. Christian Collins, a 5-star player, top 10 player, guy we've talked about quite a bit here on the show, as virtually a second option to Tyran Stokes in this recruiting class for Kentucky, has received a crystal ball to commit to the Wildcats. Travis Branham of 24/7 Sports has put in a crystal ball with a 7 out of 10 confidence, meaning, hey, look, if 24/7 Sports GOAT is telling us, hey, he's going to commit, and it's pretty likely. Honestly, rumors are that they might come by the end of the week. We'll have to wait and see. Not entirely sure what's going to happen there. A little bit snake bit, honestly, just because of what's happened with other guys in the past, and then obviously most currently, Tyran Stokes, who we've heard reports for right at a month now, actually, as of this recording, November 10th, right at a month of, okay, he's going to commit to Kentucky. Oh, he's going to do it this week. Oh, he's going to do it within the next couple weeks. Oh, he's going to do it really soon. We haven't heard anything virtually outside of a top 3 announced between Kentucky, Kansas, and Oregon, and radio silence outside of that. That's been it. So I'm a little snake bit, a little confused right now as well, because both these guys play very similar positions, and the talk has been for a month, Tyran Stokes is going to Kentucky. Tyran Stokes is going to Kentucky, blah, 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 blah. And now we have, I would think, somebody that would replace his minutes now on next year's squad, likely to commit. We'll talk a little bit more about Collins' game and maybe how this could work out, but I'm just sitting here more confused than anything. And the worst part about it is, again, I'm not an insider. I don't have boots in the ground in Lexington or in Stokes' home or in Collins' home. But I can tell you just about anything you read behind a paywall right now. I'm sure you're reading the same stuff that I am. There's nothing. There is literally nothing. Now, there's discussion about whether or not he's going to possibly go ahead and enroll. That's maybe not as likely as we once thought it was. We'll monitor that space here. But there's not really anything going on as far as where he could commit. We thought this would be done by now. We thought this would be wrapped up in blue and white and shipped over to Lexington by now with Stokes. And yet, this continues to draw out. I don't know what exactly Kentucky's plan is here. If they do end up landing Collins and Stokes is still on the board, does he end up going to a place like Kansas? Does he end up going to a place like Oregon? Obviously, money is going to factor in here. How much is Kentucky paying Collins? Again, I'm not sure. This is just a wild turn of events, I think, for Kentucky, who, if they had to pick, would probably pick Stokes over Collins. Again, I'll try and pitch how this could work and why Collins can be a good prospect at Kentucky. But this is just bizarre to me, more than anything. It is just simply bizarre how this has played out. Again, Brandon predicting Kentucky to land Collins. If you don't know who he is, top 10 player, 6'8", 200-pound forward with his ball handling and his versatile offensive skill set. I would probably play him at the 3 as opposed to the 4. He's listed on 24/7 Sports as a power forward. Unless he just magically gains 20 pounds here over the next 12 months, I would probably play him at small forward. I would not play him at power forward. He is, again, a rangy, really, really athletic, high ceiling prospect that I think is showing some inconsistency in terms of shooting the ball. We've talked about this recently, shooting sub 42% in the EYBL. Actually, it might be in the 3SSB circuit, but he's also shooting less than 22% from 3. He's got the ability to distribute, ball handle, drive to the rack and dunk on somebody. He's got the mid-range. He's got the outside shot, I think, in terms of form, but he's not really rounding into what he could be just yet. Now, defensively is where you get really excited because he's got the defensive tools. He's got the steals. He's got the rebounding. He is flying over everybody to grab boards to prevent second chance opportunities. I really like athletically what Kentucky could be getting here just because of where they have struggled under Mark Pope so far in terms of athleticism and speed, but he's not the most efficient player. He's somebody that you would absolutely see Kentucky under Coach Cal go after. I would love to have him just to see what Pope is able to do to him because based on what we've seen at BYU and now Kentucky, Pope has kind of been able to take secondhand scraps or no-name players virtually and turn them into really high-level efficient scorers that just kind of make an offense go. Somebody like Collins can end up being really, really special, I think, in 2 seasons. Does he want to stay in Lexington for 2? That's something we've already talked about on the show. I'm not entirely sure. If you're going to make this work, if you somehow find a way to get these 2 guys on the same team, I would have to play Tyran Stokes, honestly, at the 4, and I would play Christian Collins at the 3. The reason I would do this is because Stokes has about 40 pounds on him. I understand that Stokes is going to hit shots at a higher rate. I understand that he's going to probably distribute at a little bit of a higher rate. Understand that he is not as tall as Collins is. At the same time, I feel like his skill set doesn't really matter here if you got a guy at 200 pounds at 6'8" that you can play at the wing. Really, we're kind of arguing an irrelevant point here because both these guys could probably play on the floor at the same time and both just be wings or forwards, I guess I should say. It doesn't really matter if we're classifying them as a 3 or a 4. I guess this matters more defensively, I should say, because Stokes, again, has the body to play, I think, more comfortably against a power forward than maybe somebody like Collins does. Whenever I think of an SEC power forward, I go back to last year. honestly, the last few years, a guy that has really pissed me off watching him play against Kentucky is Cam Matthews at Mississippi State. Just a bruiser-type player who gets through you no matter how strong you are. Kentucky's got to have guys that can be prepared for players like that in conference play. And honestly, I'd probably be playing Stokes at the 4, and I'd be letting Collins roam off and guard whatever other SEC wing that we might encounter. Noah and Hawthorne, I think, would have to rotate in behind them. It's really hard to envision both of those guys not starting. However, maybe Pope leans a little bit more towards seniority. Maybe you let Stokes start, Diabate start, Collins and Hawthorne come off the bench. Diabate can be another defensive anchor for you on the wing. I could see this working out, but it's not the most comfortable situation, I think, for the Wildcats, especially with the depth that they already have potentially coming back on the wing and at forward. The thing I've said since probably late April, early May, is somebody's probably got to go in 2026, whether it's Cam Williams, whether it's Andrea, whether it's Hawthorne, even though he said he's going to stay here, whether it's Noah, I'm not quite sure. I don't know what Kentucky's going to do, but they're going to have to figure it out. And right now, with Collins potentially committing very soon, and Stokes, no idea what's happening with him, he's still projected to come to Kentucky, things are getting weird. Thankfully, we're in the middle of a basketball season. We don't really have to worry about that until late April after the Cats potentially win the title. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? Okay. Let's wrap up the show talking a little bit about what exactly happened on Saturday. Kentucky and Mark Stoops just took Florida out to the woodshed. It was ugly. Can you fire Stoops at this point? We'll talk about that in just a little bit. Before we do it, though, tell you guys about our friends over at FanDuel. Guys, the NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything, from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every single game more exciting, especially whenever your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up today and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, wrapping up today's episode of Locked On Kentucky. Again, appreciate you guys hanging out. I don't know if you saw what Florida did, or excuse me, what Kentucky did to the Florida Gators on Saturday. If this were Josh Pate, I'd probably snap, the lights would dim, and we'd be playing Sarah McLachlan music over just how brutal this contest ended up being. I mean, this was sad. At one point, late in the second quarter, you could see it was written all over everybody's face on the Florida sideline and on the field. This team had given up. Kentucky, 3-5 Kentucky, had broken the spirit of the Florida Gators. And I understand they don't have a coach right now, right? They don't have a whole lot of hope, but they sure do have a lot of talent still left on that roster. I know a lot of guys were out. Still, they got a lot of talent. They got a former 5-star quarterback that threw for 83 yards and 3 interceptions, was benched for freshman Trammell Jones Jr. Last time I checked, dude's name Trammell should be playing high school baseball, not quarterback at the University of Florida. And yet, there they were. 38-7 was the final score. Cats absolutely dominate. 400-plus yards of offense. Cutter Boley, second week in a row, he has earned SEC Freshman of the Week. Very efficient in this game. Not particularly explosive, but he did hit a couple of nice passes downfield, 2 touchdowns and a pick. But it was where Kentucky dominated was really on the ground. 233 yards rushing, a 65-yard touchdown from Dante Dowdell late in the game that kind of the game was already over, but it just kind of put an exclamation point on it. Seth McGowan, a couple of short yard touchdowns. Patterson had a receiving touchdown in this one. Kendrick Law also got a couple of nice touches. Jacob Hester made an incredible catch on the sideline, and just a more incredible throw, honestly, from Boley to get the game started. This was bad for Florida, and I question whether or not this ends up being bad for Kentucky as well. Based on what we're hearing, John Summerall, head coach of Tulane, you know who he is, former Kentucky player, or excuse me, alumni, was here twice as a coach. The road to Auburn might be a little bit more difficult than we think. Upon further review, because there are different schools that might get in here and try and steal him. Right now, if I had to guess, John Sumrall would be heading to Auburn because Kentucky, again, has a current sitting head coach that's being paid $9 million a year that they have not fired. My guess is that Sumrall would be going to Auburn. However, if Kentucky were to enter their name into the fold, if they were to throw their name into the hat, I think things would get really interesting really quick. Again, I'm not an insider, but I can sure tell you kind of some of the things that are going on with Sumrall right now. And I would just watch that space. Is this a bad thing for Kentucky that they've won this game? Can they fire their coach at this point after going on the road and being in Auburn in what has been, according to many, voodoo land for opposing SEC teams? Can they fire him after drubbing Florida, albeit a lifeless Gators team? I don't know if you can, especially if you find a way to beat either Vanderbilt or Louisville. If you find a way to go on the road and beat either the Commodores or the Cardinals, you make a bowl. If you beat Tennessee Tech, see how that goes. But if you make a bowl, you can't fire him. You can't. Now, reporting has kind of indicated that there's still a good chance that he might be let go at the end of the season. We'll see how the rest of these final 3 games plays out. But the win against Florida feels good. Feels great. For the long-term future of this program, I am curious to see if that was the outcome that we needed. Curious to see that. And I don't really care who that offends. If there's anybody that's rooting for Stoops, that is a diehard Stoops guy because of what he turned this program into, that's cool. Might I remind you that this man attempted to leave the program in the middle of the night to go to Texas A&M. That ended up not working out because the cult over in College Station freaked out. He tried to give up on the program. He tried to get out, I should say. And the last 2 years have produced virtually no improvement, no rebuilding after Will Levis came and went. I'm not saying I don't want Kentucky to win. I would like to see them win every single game. I would like to see them find a way to win out, finish 7-5, and go thrash somebody in a bowl game to get to 8 wins somehow miraculously. He's probably going to get a statue, but go ahead and build one if that happens for Stoops. But as of this moment, I am very skeptical about the future of the program based on the last 2 years that we've seen. And again, that result on Saturday night might have not been what we needed. Just a little worried. Because again, if you throw your hat into the ring come December, brother, John Sumrall may be heading back to Lexington. You could be getting a coveted coach, somebody that Florida, Auburn, if Ole Miss comes open, they would want him as well. If he ends up going to Lexington, this screws a good chunk of this conference. It screws them. And all these things I've been saying over the last, it is now 4 years of the direction of the SEC, the expansion, the NIL, the transfer portal, all these things working against Kentucky, the schedule becoming harder. If you get a coach everybody else wanted, and he's able to outperform whoever Auburn, Ole Miss, Florida hires, you're putting yourself in a really good position long term. Because let me tell you what this program does not lack. It's money. As much as Auburn fans and Florida fans want to get up in arms about which program is better, Kentucky's not afraid to spend money. And the reason we know that is because we currently are employing one of the 10 highest paid coaches in the sport. Curious to see how this all shakes out. I'm a little worried. But hey, a win over Florida is a win. They just cannot find a way to beat the Cats. At least they haven't as of late after, what was it, a 31-game winning streak? Don't even know. Frankly, don't even care at this point. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Kentucky. Hey, you can follow the show on Twitter at LockedOnUK. You can follow me on Twitter at LanceDawe_, and follow the show over on Instagram. That is at Kentucky Podcast. Any questions, comments, concerns, leave those in the YouTube comments below. You can hit me on the socials. I will see you all tonight for another episode of Locked On Kentucky. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and God bless.